So it turns out your boy was wrong. Many people were wrong. We all thought that for sure, Ubisoft had delayed earnings for like a week, 10 minutes before they were supposed to happen, because something big was going on behind the scenes. Because again, just bear in mind, they delayed earnings 10 minutes before it was supposed to happen. I cannot think of another time where something like that has ever happened. The example I pulled up was actually out of Australia in August, where a company called Corporate Travel Management delayed the release of their earnings because of like an auditing bookkeeping issue that they had to address, because they had a big thing happen within their company, because they have a European region where they operate, but then they needed to adjust that for Australia. Who knows? It's far out of my purview, but they had to do some big adjustment in order to get it working, but they delayed earnings in advance of their earnings by like a few days. Ubisoft did it 10 minutes before. Like, what? Did they not know 20 minutes before? Like, what is happening? Anyway, so they delayed earnings. This was what they had posted, where they just said on November 13th, again, like over a week ago, that they were postponing it. They were halting like the trading of their shares and their bonds, and they would inform the market of a date when they would restart. Just, we'll get around to it. Just please wait. Like, it's crazy. Turns out now we know. So this morning they actually did update everybody. We do know what's going on. Okay. Ubisoft, I thought they were going to announce that they had been taken private, or were going to be taken private, in a partnership with the Saudi Private Investment Fund. That was my guess for why they canceled it at the last minute. That was my conspiracy theory. I was wrong. Turns out the week-long delay in its corporate earnings, the subject of much speculation, was due to financial reporting technicalities regarding two unspecified partnerships. Most likely, Vantage Studios and the new integration of Tencent into Vantage Studios with Ubisoft. And that's it. They say that the Tencent deal is on track. The AC franchise overperformed. Rainbow Six suffered a cheating wave, and that a mystery game is set for early 2026. Probably Black Flag remake, potentially. Now, inevitably, a lot of people are starting to, I believe the official term is over this, and freak out, because the narrative has been that AC Shadows was a flop and was a cataclysmic disaster, and it doesn't actually seem like that was the case. But to do this, to talk about this, we're not going to look just at Twitter headlines. We're not going to look just at these little bitty nuggets of snippets that people have clipped out, because I've seen everybody taking a tweet and then retweeting that and being like, oh, well, this game article actually says this, and it's just nonsense. It's all BS, because you need to go back to the primary source. So I pulled up the actual transcript of the earnings call. Now, this is just as thrilling as you would imagine, okay? Basically, when you do an earnings call, all of these executives, as you can see, they have the CFO, they'll have individual representatives of different investment firms that'll ask questions at the end. Major shareholders can ask questions. They each get their own segment where they can talk about it. So as you can see, Yves Guillemot, the CEO, talks at first, then the CFO goes through details outlining all sorts of different stuff. All of this is written out in advance, is verified by like the legal team. It is very, very official. Okay, so everything you hear in this, except in very, very rare situations, has been very carefully vetted, because like this is something that is being done officially. It's regulated. Like, they can't get up during these calls and just make stuff up. Okay, like that's not how that works. If they do that, they go to prison. Hashtag Enron. Okay, you can't just make stuff up in these earnings calls. It like there's an obligation for honesty. Okay, so anybody who's like, yeah, I just don't think that's real, they are alleging mass fraud and stuff, because they don't want to admit that maybe they were wrong about something. Okay, so just don't assume that just because it doesn't fit a current narrative that therefore it all has to be a conspiracy. But what do they specifically outline? Well, in this, enhance. In this, they go through like some of the basic outlines. strengthening our financial position by bringing in 1.16 billion of cash, hashtag Tencent. They go through this. Division 2 also continued to perform strongly, benefiting from the momentum of the Battle for Brooklyn expansion. We made progress addressing our fixed cost base, brings with it confidence that we can continue to drive structural efficiencies across the organization that, together with top line growth, will contribute to ensure a return to strong cash generation in the coming years. Basically, I think it was last year, Ubisoft announced a major restructuring plan to cut costs and to try and save money. That included layoffs. It also included restructuring like the Vantage Studios thing, getting Tencent to bring cash in, things like that. But they are still doing that, and they say that they're on track. They're doing good, so that's good. Oh, shout out Luke Dale. Luke Dale just rated over on Twitch. Hell yeah. Thank you, Luke. Love your work, by the way. It's a good name, too. The one and only Luke Dale. If you guys don't know, Luke Dale, hashtag Hans in KCD 2. Love to see it. Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you. Forgive me, I'm recovering from bronchitis, and I'm trying not to die. So with all of this, it's like pretty standard stuff, but it's when the CFO starts talking that things get interesting, okay? This is when things get really, really interesting. You ready? You ready? Thank you for all the follows, guys. My goodness. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. We're looking at Ubisoft and checking out how, like, both messed up and also not as messed up as we thought things are, okay? It's very interesting. This whole thing is very interesting. So, Friedrich Duget, I'm going to pat myself on the back for that pronunciation. I think I did a good job. He outlined all of this stuff. So, turning to our second quarter, net bookings stood at 491 million euros, above guidance and up 39% year on year. The outperformance was driven by stronger than expected partnerships, demonstrating the power and attractiveness of our portfolio, as well as a meaningful contribution from live TV and animated series. Excluding partnerships, overall back catalog performance this quarter was robust and in line with expectations, broadly stable year on year, but marked by contrasted dynamics. The Assassin's Creed franchise posted a strong performance in Q2. This is during the window where AC Shadows launched, with both Assassin's Creed Shadows and the rest of the brand's catalog out or overperforming. And this is actually the sentence that has been misquoted by numerous people. So some people have said that just the Assassin's Creed franchise overperformed, but that could mean that AC Shadows underperformed. It's not what he says. What he says is AC Shadows and the rest of the brand's catalog overperformed. Now, overperformed against what? Against expectations. If they expected it to flop and it overperforms and doesn't flop, that's an overperformance. If you have something and you expect to sell 5 of them, but then you sell 6 of them, you did overperform. Does that mean that it's like changing the world and you're rolling in dough? Not necessarily, but you did overperform your expectations based on what you projected to your investors. What they projected to their investors was that AC Shadows would perform not as good as Valhalla, but probably closer to Odyssey in terms of like financial performance. A good selling game, big IP, AAA, all of that stuff, but not on the level of AC Valhalla. Because you have to remember, AC Valhalla launched as a cross-generational game, and it was also like in COVID, in lockdowns. It was a Viking game at the peak of Viking fandom. Like, it was the perfect game at the perfect time for what it was. And it exploded. It made like over $1 billion in a very short period of time. It was their biggest game of all time in terms of like single player Assassin's Creed stuff. So nobody's expecting it to outperform Valhalla, but they were guesstimating probably in the range of Odyssey, and it seems to have actually done right in line with that, if not a little bit above where Odyssey performed. In the year to date, Assassin's Creed has generated 211 million session days, around 35% higher than the last 2 years average, which this personally to me, I'm like, I mean, you had Mirage 2 years ago. So like, that doesn't seem that remarkable to me. Like, I would hope it would be larger because you had a big game launch, but okay. Shadows benefited from the launch of New Game Plus mode, which was widely anticipated by the community and introduced greater difficulty and new challenges for players. The Claws of Awaji expansion released on September 16th and contributed to re-engaging players. It was praised as a solid addition to the base game, offering new, unique boss fights in a beautiful, dark atmosphere. Looking ahead, AC Shadows will reach a broader audience with its launch on Nintendo Switch 2 on December 2nd. Beyond Shadows, the rest of the AC back catalog also performed strongly, highlighting the strength of the franchise. This is interesting, okay? Look at this. This is going to blow your mind. Blow your mind, because we're about to talk about what was expected to be a very niche game, okay? Turning to the current quarter, we launched Valley of Memory on November 18th, a free major update for AC Mirage, which brought new content and a fresh chapter in Basim's story set in Alula, I think. First feedback from the community is very positive, with player activity on AC Mirage doubling following the launch of the update, enabling the game to reach the 10 million player mark. 10 million. That's crazy. Now, granted, Mirage is now included on, I believe, multiple different subscription services. I believe now it's already included in Game Pass Ultimate. That was part of the whole like $30 thing, was that they were adding Ubisoft stuff to it. Of course, Ubisoft Plus, a lot of people already bought it and stuff, but it's still 10 million players is a crazy number for what was originally pitched as a DLC for Valhalla. If you forgot, AC Mirage was originally meant to be a DLC for Valhalla. Eventually they realized we could probably spin this off into its own game and just make it like a old school stealth focused Assassin's Creed game. But they decided to do that. And I honestly, I like Mirage. It is one of those games that's not trying to be a 10 out of 10 masterpiece. It's trying to be like something very specific. And I think it achieves that. Very narrow in scope, but that's kind of what we need in the industry nowadays with a lot of these big publishers. It's just tighter scope. Not every game has to be, you know, everything to everybody. You can have a little tighter scope. But the idea that it's now reached 10 million players, whether they are playing it through a subscription program or not, that is crazy. That is crazy. Inevitably, you will still see people that are trying to spin it and be like, yeah, but it's through Game Pass. Dude, you put a game up on Game Pass, you try to get 10 million players, bro. That's still crazy. 10 million? Do you have any idea how many people that are? Like, it's insane. It's absolutely crazy. And I think, just maybe this is my own bias, I think it shows people like the old school formula. People like the stealth. Personally, that's what I'm saying. Just saying, cancel me. I don't care. Cancel me for that. That's what I think. 10 million people like Mirage. Maybe do more stealth games. It does seem like they're going to do that. After Valley of Memory, it looks like Bordeaux, which is the studio behind Valley of Memory and AC Mirage, they are going to now be working on their own dedicated stealth-focused Assassin's Creed game, which realistically we won't see until next generation. It's probably like a 2020, realistically, like 2029, 2028, 2029 game, but that's going to be cool. I mean, if they actually now, I think they, with the success of Mirage, 10 million players, I think that they almost certainly will get given whatever budget they need to achieve that and to really push for a fully realized big budget old school style game, which I'm here for. They go on and they discuss Rainbow Six. They discuss problems with a hacking debacle that they had. Other things with like Star Wars Outlaws launching on the Switch. It launched to strong critical and player reception. The release expanded the game's audience and was praised for its exceptional visuals, technical optimization, smooth performance, and seamless transition to Nintendo's new hardware. Avatar Frontiers Pandora also posted strong performance this quarter. Okay. R&D, total cash R&D was down 11% and reflects our continued efforts to addressing our fixed cost base. Looking at cash flow statement on slide 9, free cash flow stood at minus 251 million euros compared to negative 126 million euros the previous year. And they go through all this. We finalized our stuff. We make progress on a new cost reduction plan. Let's see. Eve mentioned we had to delay publishing our results towards the end of the review process of our H1 financial accounts. Our new panel of auditors reviewed the analysis that had led to the fiscal 25 accounts being validated by our former panel of auditors in May. This related specifically to the new IFRS 15 revenue recognition of one meaningful partnership in fiscal 25. The new panel of statutory auditors considered the utilization-based payment schedules must now be recognized under IFRS 15 as revenues over utilization, even if the commitments are firm. This ultimately led to the restatement of our fiscal 25 account as per IAS 8. We then had to assess the impact of this restatement as well as the implication of this new position on the second partnership booked in Q2 along the same initial principles. Super fun. Basically, their panel of auditors found a hiccup and they needed to fix it. And then that meant that they had to reanalyze everything. And that took a week. And now they're here. So that's why they delayed it at the last minute by a week. I still don't know why they waited till 10 minutes before earnings, but that's why. That's why. Excuses, I mean, it literally is by definition an excuse. So I will agree with you there. Whether it's a good excuse or not, I mean, I'm glad that they didn't publish financial results that had accounting issues in them. I'm glad they caught the financial or the accounting issues. That's why you have auditors look at your stuff before you present it. But it's still crazy that 10 minutes before you do it. But what's happening now, I mean, all of this is interesting. Long story short, it's actually significantly better than people were expecting. And I think because of the last minute delay, people were braced and investors were braced for them to come out and be like, everything's bad, everything's on fire, we're shutting down. Like, people were getting ready for that. And so when they came out, we're like, actually, we outperformed our guidance. Because what happens is in Q1, they will give guidance saying to investors, we think we're going to do these numbers next quarter. And if they achieve those targets, then they're good. If they overachieve them, even better. If they underperform, bad. But everybody expected them to underperform. They actually came out overperformed, and now people are like, oh, really? Okay, crazy. So Ubisoft stock is actually doing quite well today as a result of this news. But what's happening in the gaming space is that everything is pretty much focused on Assassin's Creed and specifically AC Shadows, because in the gaming space, the narrative has been among some that AC Shadows must have been a flop, either because you don't like it for culture war reasons, or you just thought the game was boring, whatever the reason may be. But it actually seems like it, according to their estimations, they are saying, again, under penalty of like imprisonment if they lie in these earnings calls, they're saying that both Assassin's Creed Shadows and the rest of the brand's catalog overperformed their expectations, which is cool. I mean, I think it's surprising because I think they were facing many headwinds for sure. But I think it's also a reminder for everybody that Assassin's Creed is freaking gigantic. It's just huge. And the casual audience that really loves Assassin's Creed, they are not the type to be online looking up what Grums has to say about video games. Like they just don't care. They just don't care. So like it doesn't matter, because you can have a game which is like maybe not the best. Like I think again, Shadows I thought was a good step away from the Valhalla era of just pure junk food games, and they were trying to get a little bit more substantive. I still think that there's a lot of work left to do. They have to overhaul the motion capture. They have to overhaul like the narrative stuff, because the writing is really dry. But the production quality, the polish, all of that was pretty undeniable and impressive. But they still have some work to do. It just wasn't a masterpiece, but it was a step in the right direction. But they were fighting some massive headwinds. But I think that all of this just goes to show that the casual audience that is not terminally on Twitter, they were interested. They bought it because they saw a new Assassin's Creed game came out and they played it. They had a good time. They spent money on it, and they're good. Do they still need a reality check? Ubisoft? I mean, I think that the constant stock troubles are a very good reminder for them. I think it's a very good reminder for them that that things are not going well. Because even if we just go over the last like 5 years, I mean, again, like you can see back in 2021, era of Valhalla, they're trading at like 20, and it just continues to drop and drop and drop and drop and drop and drop and drop. And so this tells you pretty much all you need to know as far as like investors are concerned, and the executive team. Clearly things are not going the way that they want. There's a lot of interesting, this is why I like Seeking Alpha, not investment advice. It's just honestly a good website, but they have a lot of this stuff collected. So you can look at like Capcom, Square Enix, Katakawa, which is one of the major holders of From Software, CD Projekt Red. You can look at all those, but it also connects together analysis from all these different outlets on the firms. So you can see this guy, Kineo, he says Ubisoft a confusing structure and fading turnaround potential, and he downgrades the rating, what he thinks the company's worth. These guys, significant challenges, speculative upside, thinks there's an upside to all of this if they can kind of untangle the web. These guys, DPRG investment management, the Tencent deal could spark a game-changing comeback, which if you are an investor and you think that the Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Rainbow franchises are worth about $7 billion, which is roughly what they're estimated to be worth, and you think that Tencent can come in and kick some sense into Ubisoft, right now the market cap is $1 billion. If they are able to come in and fix the company and 7x the value and just get the company worth what the IP are worth, you can make stupid money on Ubisoft if you believe that they can actually untangle this and get back on track. As you can tell with where it's trading, most investors don't feel they're going to do that. But if you're an investor who thinks that you can understand their business and think that they can actually get back on track, then there's a lot of money to be made. But that's where investment and analysis comes in, right? Do I believe? My position has been for a long time that I do not think that Ubisoft, being led by the Guillemot family, is capable of doing what they need to do. Personally, I think they had some capable managers at one point, but those people happen to also be horribly toxic, abusive, and many other things. And so they were kicked out and fired. And so while they might have been good at like juggling production schedules, they were horribly toxic and abusive. And so they were fired, rightfully. But now they've replaced it with like cousins and nephews and uncles and brothers and sisters who don't know what they're doing. And now like the company is just floundering. So yeah, I think until they completely redo the management lineup, I would not have a lot of confidence in it. I don't own gaming stocks for obvious reasons because it's a conflict of interest. So I don't hold gaming stocks. But if I were like outside of this universe and I were looking to make investments or stuff, right now I would not be holding Ubisoft stock. I do not feel that confident in their trajectory. I'm more confident than I was like a year ago, considering like Tencent's involvement, but then they, slapped me upside the face with the other choice, which is, putting Yves Guillemot's son as CEO, co-CEO of Vantage Studios, which is like such an obviously stupid decision that it doesn't even really warrant explaining. But
if AC overperformed so well, why are their stocks so low? Also, what are the chances we'll get another IT better not be Fallout I swear to God moment at the GOTY Awards?
I don't think that'll happen at this Game Awards, because I think if it goes to Expedition 33, everybody will be hyped. I think if it goes to KCD2, everybody will be hyped. The one game, if it won, that I think would upset people, I think if Death Stranding 2 won Game of the Year, I think people would throw a fit. I think then people would throw a fit, because like Death Stranding 2 is good, but like, is it on the level of Expedition? Like, really? I think that would cause an uproar, especially because I understand like there is a distinction between Jeff and the people who pick the actual award. It's not like Jeff is picking who wins. That's not what's happening. But there is clearly like a bias, or at least a conflict of interest with Jeff and Kojima being like close and being buddies. It just makes it, if it were to win a big upset like that, I think it would upset people. I think that would upset people. As for if AC overperforms so well, why are their stocks so low? Ubisoft is not just Assassin's Creed, and companies are not valued on today. There's something called net present value of assets, or NPV. Net present value, this is going to be very, very, I'm going to keep this very, very bare bones and won't go too much into this, but this is kind of like my entire bachelor's degree was centered on this. But basically, net present value, or net present worth, as it's called, I believe in Europe, is a way of measuring the value of an asset or a company that has a cash flow by adding up the present value of all future cash flows it will generate. This is also done with a lot of complicated math to calculate the time value of money, because money is worth different amounts based on the time in which it's gained and the time at which it's taxed and the time at which you're going to value the firm at that point, or the asset or the project or whatever. So then you have to do a lot of complicated math, like weighted average costs of capital and investment returns and all this stuff. It's a lot of crazy math. But the point is, if Assassin's Creed does really well today, that's great. That's cool. But that tells you what it did today. When you're buying a car, you're not buying it so that it performs today and not tomorrow. You're buying it based on the value it's going to give you over the next week, 2 weeks, month, year, 5 years, 10 years as you drive that car. If you knew the car was going to stop running tomorrow, you probably wouldn't pay very much for it, right? So for a company, you're not valuing it based on today. You're buying and valuing it based on what it's going to do in the future over time. And when investors look at Ubisoft, the point is that they are looking at it and being like, okay, cool. Today you did okay, or good even. But what are we going to do in a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? And that is where confidence in management comes in. That's when all of this floods in with a lot more complicated evaluations. And with Ubisoft right now, the trends are not great. And the confidence in leadership is very, very low. And so there's just not a lot of hope from investors that they're going to be able to dig themselves out of it. So that's why. You could have a company or a franchise like AC greatly overperform, but if everything else looks like ass in the lineup in the next 5 years, the stock will still go down. There's even been cases where like Apple will surpass their earnings on their earnings call. They will overachieve, but their stock will still drop because there was some news that, yeah, our projections are that interest in iPhones in China has dropped. And the stock drops 4% because it's not just a matter of this one, variable. It's an equation with 50 variables, Yeah, it's a whole thing. Just like Nvidia yesterday. Yeah. All of these companies, the stock market is not a single variable thing. There's a lot going into valuations, way more than I think is often presented on places like Twitter, for example. There's a lot. What do you think Ubisoft's biggest golden egg is? I think they value Assassin's Creed more than Rainbow. But I would say, yeah, I mean, Rainbow's kind of mellowing out a little bit. Probably Assassin's Creed. Probably. I think. We'll see if that's still true in a year or two, but who knows? He took my